Hi guys, I was just going to do a quick video to show you how to install the MHRC lowered motor plate. So this is the stock, this is an RB6.6, so the motor plate will work on this car, or work on the RB6.6 and the RB7 as well. And basically what it does is it drops the motor down, so when you raise the transmission up, it keeps the motor low and the centre of gravity low. So that's the what the motor plate does. And then the main benefit there is when you're running lower ride heights, you can get the drive shaft angle right. It also gives you more corner speed and more grip as well. So it's a win-win situation. But I'll talk you through how to do it, and we'll just get started by stripping the gearbox out and then getting the motor plate fitted on. So that's the 4 screws taken out from the gearbox, 2 for the waterfall there, and the 2 there in the back of the bulkhead. Whip the shocks off like that, and then basically pull your gearbox out like so, and then set the car to one side. We don't need that for now. So then we'll just whip off the rear shock tower like so. So we'll take those 4 screws out there, and then we can take the slipper off, and then split the gearbox case and then refit the lowered motor plate. Right, so that's the gearbox case split, as you can see. You've got the 3 long 35mm bolts there that go into the motor plate itself, but there's another screw just down here, so take the idler gear out. You can see it just there, so just need to take that screw out there, and then the motor plate will come out. Right, so that's the motor plate out, as you can see. So we just need to, you need to use this little spacer here, which I'll just take off like so. So you need to take that out your old motor plate and keep that for the new one. Okay, so we'll just set that to one side with the car, and then we're ready to go to put the MHRC lowered motor plate on. Right, so there's the motor plate there. So it's made out of 3mm thick aluminium. So it's quite a bit thicker than the stock one, as you can see when you compare them side by side. So it should be a bit stiffer, a bit less flex there. So yeah, I'm just going to fit the that little spacer in there, then thread lock the bolts like so, not too much, and then just nip them up. You don't need to do them tight. Remember, this is aluminium, and you could strip it if you really tighten these ones up too much. Okay, but just a little nip. And also, if you do these too tight, it can sometimes squish the gearbox cases and bind the transmission up, which is obviously not what you want. So we'll just carry that out now, and then I'll show you it fitted up in a sec. Right, so there's the motor plate fitted. So again, just a reminder, you know, do these bolts up really carefully. Just when they start to feel a little bit tight, just stop there. If you go cranking them too much, you will strip them out. Because this is a slightly thicker motor plate, you might want to consider running some slightly longer bolts if you want to than the stock ones, but these have just nipped up okay. But for that extra security, you might want to run, you've still got, if you can see in there, a couple of mil of thread available, so you might want to just find some sort of 38mm long screws or some 40mm and just trim them down a little bit to get some more bite into the plate. But just an option there anyway, but that's all bolted up fine as it came out of the packet. So we'll get the little brass collar on there, don't forget that, so that slides down the low shaft. Then we'll get the slipper back on, and then we will look at gluing on the spacers to shim it up. So we're going to put some 2.5mm spacers here, 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 and 2 at the back there and there. So we'll give this a wipe off with some brake cleaner, so there's obviously no grease on there. Then with a little bit of Sino, then we'll stick all the 2.5mm plastic spacers on there in a minute, and I'll show you that. So I've got the little plastic washer in there, as you can see. So that's the size. So 2.5mm is basically what you're aiming for, really, to obviously give you clearance with the motor plate against the chassis. So we're going to glue these up on here, here and here, as per previous clip. And what you can do is just to, obviously, when you've got the glue on, you can just pop them over there. Obviously, to make sure they're centered, you could get a wrench in there and then just sort of center them up that way, and then obviously let the glue go off and do its thing. Just a little thought there. Just a little tip. I've got this old it was a exhaust spring puller that's a bit bent, as you can see, but it's great for just dipping in the Sino and then just carefully running a ring of Sino around there. You could use a piece of wire or a bit of solder just a tip there to hopefully make your life easier and not get things stuck together. So that's all the spacers glued up, as you can see, just down there and there. So we'll just let those dry off, and then we'll get that fitted. And the next task we're going to have to do before we put the gearbox back in the car is, as we're obviously raising the transmission up, we need to trim. I'll try and get it on camera. We basically need to trim a little bit off this underneath edge here. As you can see, it's got a whoops, there we go, you can see a bit better. As you can see, it's got a bevel on it anyway out the packet, but we just need to take a little bit more off that. So you can just take the block off, get a Dremel wheel or a file and just take a bit more, probably a mil or two off of that, just to give the outdrive and the drive shaft pin clearance, obviously with the gearbox raised up a bit. Then also one other point to mention is the waterfall. Wherever it's gone, you're going to have to put the same size 2.5mm spacers on here as well. So I'll glue that up off camera, and then we'll start putting it back together. So that's the rear brace done, as you can see. Little top tip there, elastic band on the old pliers, good for holding stuff for soldering and doing stuff like this. So there we have it, they're all dried and ready to go. So we'll start putting it back together, and then we'll look at just dremeling this bulkhead slightly. Right, so that's the transmission back in with the 2.5mm spacers just there. As you can see, we've got obviously plenty of clearance between the motor plate and the chassis, so you could go a touch lower if you wanted to. These spacers are 2.5, you could go 2mm if you wanted to, so a few options to try with that. The outdrives do clear just about, it's very close, so just for, obviously the cars do move and flex a bit when you're running, so just to be on the safe side, I will just trim a little bit from that area under there before we get it all bolted back down again. But it does just about clear, which was a slight concern, but nothing a slight whip over with the Dremel won't sort out. So I've just hit that with the Dremel. As you can see, we have clearance now, which is good. So I've just done the one side to sort of show you roughly what it looks like. So we'll just slide that off. So there you have it. So you can kind of see roughly what material you've got to take off versus the other side there. So you've almost got to kind of come up and leave a little bit of a gap at the top there, if that makes sense. But you can just sort of see it there really. So I'll get this other side done, then we'll bolt it all back together and we're done. And as we've obviously raised the gearbox up, and it's sitting a little bit higher here in the bulkhead, as you can see. So I'm going to replace the M3x8 button head screw that sits in here, and then just replace that with an M3x10. Okay, so it just obviously bites into the bulkhead a bit better, but I'm sure you'll have those in your box. And also this motor plate's a bit thicker than the other one, so when you're bolting your motor in, you might just want to run a slightly longer screw in that, but obviously just check that as you put your car back together. So that's the gearbox all bolted in, and as you can see, we have clearance from the motor plate to the chassis, which is all good. Yeah, I'll just show you the back end like so. You see it's just raised up a bit there, and we obviously have our clearance for the outdrives there, which is great. So yeah, we'll carry on putting it back together now. So next up, we're going to refit the waterfall, obviously with our little spacers glued on there. So we'll pop that back on like so. Oh, by the way, these little set screws here, this is just a little mod the team do, just so basically allows the car to flex a little bit more at the rear. Some guys on dirt take this off completely, but as we mainly race on Astro and carpet in the UK, tend to just do this modification here, nice and simple and effective. So we'll get that all bolted up now. Right, so there it is, all done and back together. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. I know I've put up some photographs just to show you what to do, but sometimes easier on a video to see how it's done. So yeah, basically the hardware under here, I've just put the standard M3x8 countersunk bolts back into the gearbox. The waterfall takes M3x6, but obviously we've spaced that up 2mm, so I'd put a M3x8 in those again, just to get it nice and secure so none of the threads pull out. But you know, at the moment this has got M3x6s in it, and that they tightened up fine. So up to you if you wanted to just replace those two there. But there we have it. So yeah, looking forward to testing it. I've just got to put some more electrics in it, and then we'll go and give it a run. But overall it's looking pretty good. So any questions, just shout, but I hope that's been helpful for you, and look forward to hearing your feedback once you've done some testing on it. CJ Jellin reckons it's an absolutely awesome mod, and since he's done it, hasn't put it back. So he hasn't got one of these motor plates yet, so I might have to post him one and get him to test it out. But okay, great stuff. Catch you soon, guys. Cheers. So one final bit to add. These were the old motor screws I was using, which is an M3x6 cap head. And with the thicker motor plate now, I'm just going to run the M3B8 again, just to get some good engagement on the thread going into your motor. The last thing you want to do is strip the thread in your nice expensive brushless motor, so just bear that in mind when you do it, guys. But just common sense prevails. So if it doesn't feel quite right, you know, just think about it and, you know, run a slightly longer screw. Right, that's it. I hope you enjoy the mod, and I'll catch you soon.